Guru Vajradara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Munisha Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke Kudan Dagelu Pakyuke Sundan Dagenga Pakyuke Tukdan Dageyi Tünyerme Çıktı Çingelo Makyuke Kudan Dagelu Makyuke Sundan Dagenga Makyuke Tukdan Dageyi Tünyerme Çıktı Çingelo Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Svoha Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamki Drola Pinchra Sangye Druparasho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamki Drola Pinchra Sangye Druparasho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamki Drola Pinchra Sangye Druparasho. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nella Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo Lai Ke Dan Ludan Nu Jin Ke Rubundan Da Mi Ke Nam Dan Ruwa Kun Ke Dranam Chi Tsampa Tam Che Ke To Da Ke Che Ten To Tam Che Ke To Da Ke Che Ten To. Ogni tanto
sometimes
esiste questa percezione,
there is this idea, this perception that in the part of Vajrayana Buddhism, the so-called Tantra, is something mystical in the sense of something that he cannot understand, that is far from our reality, and things like that. Actually, when we look with a bit more attention, we see that it's quite the opposite. All the part of Vajrayana Buddhism, the symbology that is there, the practices that we do and all of that is based on our reality that we have here, very much with the feet on the ground. The majority of the practice is based on death, birth, rebirth, on our body, on those that are our own energies, on the aspects of ourselves that we have today, that in Tibetan is called Shi or basis. That is the current state, are the resources that we have in order to be able to transform them into something else. And for this is divided into three parts, which are called in Tibetan Shi, Lam, Drib. Basis, path, and result. This is a concept that is applied on many spheres, many levels. So we have basis, path, result. The order is this basis, path, result, the natural order. But the order to practice is basis, result, path. The basis are the resources that we have. It's a bit like saying, if I go and take like a piece of clay, that is the basis, the resources that I have. That's the clay, the water, my hands. The result, what do I want to make out of it? With this clay, I would like to build like a house for a family of five people with 1.5 kilos of clay. Can I do that? Not really. I mean, the house where one can live and all of that, one doesn't fit. And so for this there is no coherence. If I say, okay, I want to build a statue, I want to create a statue, I can do that. What happens is this, the goal, the so-called result, should be coherent with the basis. It's important that it's desired, that it's projected, a goal that transcends what the basis is, but that is coherent with those very resources. And then there is the path. What should I do in order to transform those resources into that result? And here we need to work. And sometimes we can do much more than what we imagine. I don't know, it comes to my mind as I was making this example, just like a quick note, because otherwise it just stays there in the back and occupies some space. Many centuries ago in Nepal, there was a woman that she believed very much in Buddhism and so on, and had this dream, vision and so on, that she had to build a great stupa, a great sacred place, great stupa. And at the time, all the land was property of the king. And so she went to the king and she said, look, I would like to build a stupa, can you give me a piece of land? Anywhere, wherever I would like to do it. And the king saw this woman, poor, then just let it be. And he, for not saying no, he said, yes, I can give you a piece of land as big as the area that you can cover with the skin of a cow. So if we think about it, how big is the area that you can cover with the skin of a cow, like a couple of meters square? And she said, okay, fine. And so she went, she took a whole skin of a cow and she started to cut it, starting from the extremities with a very, very thin thread, and she made like a sort of veil, like a very, very long thread, always made by this leather that she cut, and she took this thread and made like a huge circle in on the land, and she said, this is the land that I can cover with the skin of a cow. And so he said, wow, okay. And then he gave her the land, and so this then became the stupa of Bodha, which is the greatest stupa there is in Kathmandu, the stupa of Bodhanath, that was built on this occasion. This example shows us that sometimes we cannot see the potential that exists inside of the resources that we have. And so, in order to be able to dream, to project into something, the result requires a dream. One should also know the resources. And so, the basis are the resources. In our case, what are the resources that we have? What is the basis? Body, mind, environment. What we have today is our body, mind, it's our interaction with the environment. This is what we have. Are the natural processes of body and mind. And with this, what can we do? And that's where the result comes of becoming a Buddha. We can reach an inner state of peace, of balance, of satisfaction, and so on. It's possible to do that. How do you do it? And here there is the whole gradual path. Part of the basis is body and mind. And then there are also the natural processes of our lives, among which there is the process of birth, life, death, intermediate state, so-called bardo, and then rebirth. Tantra uses the basis of what we are to develop the result. For example, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Why are they 5? The answer, a bit philosophical, that also makes laugh a little bit, because 4 is not enough and 6 are too much, too many.
Per questo sono 5.
And so for these are 5.
A livello più chiaro, perché
on a more clear level, why are there 5 Dhyani Buddhas? In some cases also Vajradhara is counted and there are 6. Because Dhyani Buddhas represent the various parts that make our being. And we are made of 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates of the basis, and so body and mind, with 5 aspects, 5 aggregates. In the result, they are represented by the 5 Dhyani Buddhas.
Noi abbiamo la nostra mente.
We have our mind, gross mind, that has 5 fundamental aspects that are called the 5 wisdoms of the basis. Then you have the 5 wisdoms of the result of the Dhyani Buddhas. We will call that tomorrow or the day after. But that's to say that always when we see an enlightened aspect, there is always, that's the resultant aspect, there is always the correspondent aspect in the basis. And then there is the path to transform that basis into that result. In the process of the tantric practices, the basis from which we start to transform is body and mind, and we particularly use death, bardo and rebirth to transform the body and mind. It's a natural process that happens, because in the process of death, whether we want it or not, the person, the being that dies, enters a deeper state of consciousness. There is this verse of a very beautiful text. There is a discussion between wisdom and ignorance, written by Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyatsen, Dagsing Shaktep. And at the beginning it says,
Dal bodhisattva del 10° bhumi, che fa
from the bodhisattva of the 10th bhumi, which refers to that being that is about to reach enlightenment, just like so close. So not like a Buddha, but like the highest being that a Buddha can be, that a being can be. Okay. From the bodhisattvas of the 10th bhumi until an ant. I don't know why the ant is used as a lower being, but anyway, to say like from from a bodhisattva until like a bug, to say.
Nel momento della morte,
at the time of death, there is the Mother Clear Light. And that's also the Mahamudra of the basis. What does it mean? That also the ant, when it dies, also experiences the clear light. Whatever being, when it dies, the gross body is lost, the subtle body manifests, and then also the very subtle one. And so in the process of death, one passes from a gross to subtle to very subtle level of consciousness. Then the very great majority of all of us, it is said that one dies like kind of like half drunk, doesn't even realize what is going on. The clear light lasts just like a snap of fingers, and nothing much changes. But it's an opportunity that it's there for everyone. And so, death is the basis. Then there is the path in which one transforms death, and the result, there is the clear light. That is the Dharmakaya, the clear light. So we have the death of the basis, that is we have the process of transformation of the path, that is called the union of the Mother Clear Light with the Son Clear Light. The Mother Clear Light is the very subtle state that is natural and spontaneous that happens at the moment of death. And the Son Clear Light is the one that is generated in the union of bliss and emptiness, in which one has meditated and that then can bring back at the time of death. The result is to reach a state of very subtle mind that is free from ignorance, so a pure state, the so-called Dharmakaya. When a being dies, gets into this very subtle state, so-called clear light, and then at a certain point, it is said that very subtle body and mind get out of the body, and immediately there is a subtle rebirth that resembles a lot to the process of dreaming. So it's like when we fall asleep, that's similar to the process of dying. We lose touch with the outside world, and then at a certain point we get into a deeper sleep, and then we wake up again, so to speak, in a dream. But when we wake up in a dream, if I am dreaming of being somewhere, before do I need to be born into that dream and be like a baby, grow up, or I am just like immediately like, I don't know, 80 years old or something like that? It's instantaneous, reality is instantaneous. And in the same way is the bardo, so it's this intermediate state where after the one passes the process of dying and gets at the clear light, then at a certain point he finds himself in a new reality. And this reality where one finds himself is projected by mind. It's very, very similar to a dream. When one dreams, usually is not aware of being dreaming. One that is in the bardo usually is not aware of being in the bardo. And then it's described that during the bardo, one can have until up to 7 bardos. What does it mean? Similarly, like in a night, we can have more than one dream or not? How many? I don't know, someone has ever counted them and woke up, okay, I had like 25 dreams. I don't know, I think not. It's described that it should be more or less like maximum 7 dreams. One goes from one and then wakes up in another one that doesn't have anything to do with the one before, or maybe yes, then it wakes up in another dream again until one wakes up completely. And this is the analogy that is there with the process of bardo, where in the bardo one creates a subtle reality that is called the dream body. A subtle body that doesn't have matter. it's an immaterial body where one still can interact. For example, some senses are not present during with the body of Bardo, similar to the dream. One doesn't hear sounds, but the communication is done mind to mind. And so the being of the Bardo, and also during the dreams, when it seems that you're talking with someone, actually you're listening to the thoughts, not the words. There is no touch.
Si dice che c'è l'olfatto, come non lo so, però
It's said that there is the smell, taste, I don't know how, but they say that the beings of the Bardo also nourish on smells. But anyway, this subtle reality is created that is conditioned strongly by the last mental state before death, that acts as a condition and gives and from the conditionings generated during life. One is born in this bardo. This bardo not necessarily is a term determines the rebirth, because there could be other possibilities that bardo can end and a new one can start, like a dream that ends and a new dream starts. And then at a certain point, on the basis of the conditions that are there, one gets in touch with is described it as the union of the egg and the sperm, of the mother and the father. They generate attraction towards one of the two and aversion to the others. And it's said that if one has attraction towards the energy of the father, is birth as a woman, and the other way around as a man. And usually there is attraction towards one and aversion towards the other one, and the being just goes like towards that with all the force possible, and when there is contact, it remains trapped inside of the union of the sperm and the egg, and there is a small death of the bardo, and from that starts the process of rebirth. This is how this process is described of the bardo. What is the difference, the main difference that it's there between a common, ordinary being and a spiritually evolved being or enlightened?
La morte è la morte.
Death is death. The processes of dissolution of the elements are those. There is the clear light. There is a huge difference between dying and aware that it's aware or not aware. To be able to transform, to mix the mother clear light, the clear light of death, with the union of bliss and emptiness. But about bardo and rebirth, the main difference is that we all beings are free to choose where and how to be reborn. In the sense, there is no one forcing us.
Basta pensare in questo momento.
We just need to think, okay, in this moment, let's say that at a certain point I tell every one of you that is here, you can choose one object among those that are here. Do we choose all the same object? Why don't we choose the same? Because we're different. We have projections, attachment, aversion. Maybe someone likes the cup, someone likes the statue, someone likes the book, someone wants the microphone, I don't know.
No? C'ho qua la macchinina di...
I have the small car of Dragoshi here. Oh, actually it's mine, he gave it to me, so...
Perciò ognuno può scegliere una cosa diversa.
So everyone can choose a different thing. We are free to choose, but we're not free from our conditionings in the choice.
Chiaro? Quindi è una libertà molto limitata.
So it's a very limited freedom. If I'm angry, my freedom is even more limited. If I'm full of desire, aversion, envy, according to the conditionings that I have and according to my senses. My choice is conditioned by that.
Chiaro questo? L'essere che è nel bardo,
The being that is in the bardo, And the choice of how and where to be reborn is totally conditioned by his own senses, subjective reality, mental defilements by himself. And so that is why it's said that he's reborn without freedom. It's a rebirth without a choice that is aware. And the difference of a being that is outside of samsara, the cycle of attachment, desire, jealousy, and so on, is that not having any more these negative conditionings and having an inner clarity and being free from conditionings, is able to choose freely how and where to be reborn. Technically, we have the same opportunities. It's like saying, okay, everyone can choose freely what you want to take, but everyone is conditioned by his own situation. And so, what we simulate during the practice is we have transformed death into Dharmakaya. So, theoretically, we have died well in this state of union on bliss and emptiness, and now we simulate a healthy bardo. From this clear light, one generates the intention that is, okay, I want to help the beings, but if I stay in this state of clear light, the truth is that the only being that can see the very subtle mind of another being is either himself or a Buddha. And me, if I'm a Buddha, I don't want to be seen by the other Buddhas. I don't care much about that. I want to be seen by beings because I want to help them. The goal of a Buddha is to help sentient beings. And how can I help someone, whoever of us, by interaction? There is no other way. So, from that very subtle state called Dharmakaya, in order to help beings, I need to manifest with a gross body, grosser body. And from that state of clear light, then in an instant, one is rebirthed in the bardo. The reality around us reappears, like the senses waking up. In that moment is a more subtle reality, more ephemeral. One is born, arises with a body of light that is also represented by a ray of light. So it's imagined to be reborn, to arise, to appear like that, as a ray of light. So not with a body and so on. And this ray of light vibrates with a sound, depending also on the practice that we are doing. In this case, it vibrates with the sound of hum, and represents our very subtle body and mind. No, subtle, not very subtle. No, very subtle. And it's like a presence that perceives the reality, material reality, but is not directly part of that. I don't know how to explain.
A un certo punto siamo in questo corpo.
And then at a certain point we are in this subtle body and we focus on the state where we are this ray of light. From us, rays of light emanate that go towards all sentient beings, bringing them towards a state of peace. Then the rays of light come back, go towards all the Buddhas, making offerings, and then the rays of light come back. But, okay, in order to help all beings, I need to be in a shape, in a form that everyone can see, because the subtle body, so-called Sambhogakaya, can be perceived directly only by those that are called the Arya Bodhisattvas. Then they are those that technically are already outside of the samsara, that have realized the ultimate nature of phenomena, and they don't really need that so much. And so I want to help beings that are more in need, but they are more dull, they are more closed, they are more limited. Because like someone like us, if a Buddha wants to help us and comes with a subtle body, what do we tell him? Can't you manifest in a way that I can interact with you? because if you're there or not, I don't even understand that. You can talk to me, you can do anything, like maybe you're there, you're also helping me, so on, but I need something more materic. And that's where, from the compassion of wanting to help beings, then one takes the commitment, okay, I want to manifest on a gross level, adapted to the necessity and capacity of beings. The part of the transformation of Bardo into Sambhogakaya actually is quite short. Then, if we want, we can get into that and add details of various kinds, but usually we visualize the moment where the environment reappears, the universe around us, and we ourselves appear. One of the ways is like in this ray of light. Could be white in color or blue. We can do it. Usually it's white, but it could be. It depends on the practice also. At this point, now I give the more detailed explanation. Let's imagine that we are going around and we generate this strong intention of wanting to manifest on a gross level to help beings. We look from above and we see down a lotus flower. A lotus flower on which there is a sort of cushion. There is a mixture of white and red, a moon and sun cushion, and we see it like sort of pink, but where we see also both the white and red. It's not like a pink that is totally mixed, but there is the union of white and red. The lotus flower represents the mother's womb. White and red of the cushion represent the union of the egg and the sperm, the union of the energy of the father and mother. And one looks from above and says, I want to help beings, generates attraction towards that, and directs himself towards this lotus flower, enters that, experiences what is called a small death. In one moment, goes through the dissolution of the elements very quickly again, and the black vision comes back again, and from that the process of rebirth starts. And this process of rebirth, as a first thing, we visualize that we ourselves arise on this lotus flower with the sun and moon cushion, and we arise as a seed syllable. We ourselves appear as a dot of light vibrating with a sound, like a point of light vibrating with the sound of hum. It's a point of light. The concept of the seed syllable very often is described, the visualization to visualize the Tibetan syllable or Sanskrit, but what is the writing of a syllable? It's a representation of a sound. If I learn how to visualize the Tibetan syllable, but I don't know what sound it has, it's kind of pointless. So it's a symbol that represents a sound. So if we go beyond the symbol, the seed syllable is a point of light, it's described as small as a sesame seed, vibrating with a sound. So we have a small dot of light vibrating with the sound of hum, and we are that. We arise as that small dot of light, and of course we see ourselves from the inside and we are really huge, enormous, but we are that dot of light. From ourselves, as that dot of light, rays of light emanate, going towards all sacred beings, making offerings, go towards all sentient beings, helping them. The rays of light go there, emanate, then come back, reabsorb in us, and through the power of the positive energy generated through these offerings, through the act of sustaining and helping beings, from that point, that small tiny point of light, we grow, we transform into what is either a ray of light or what is called the symbol. The symbol represents the subtle body. The seed syllable represents the very subtle body, very subtle body, speech, mind. The symbol There's a subtle and the complete body, the gross body, speech and mind. In this case, we can arise in the symbol of a white Vajra.
Sorgiamo nell'aspetto
We
di questo
arise in the aspect of this Vajra, or a ray of light, both are fine. Another time, rays of light emanate, going towards all beings, making offerings to sacred beings, helping sentient beings. This act is called performing the two purposes, so making offerings to the sacred beings and helping ordinary beings, sentient beings. Rays of light emanate and then come back, and when they come back at that point, from that ray of light, from that symbol of the white Vajra, we arise in the complete aspect of the gross body of Buddha Vajrasattva. We have a face, two arms, our legs are crossed, a body of white in color, but that is transparent, almost like a crystal, luminous like a crystal. We have in our right hand a dorje, in the left hand a bell.
Teniamo il mudra
We
dell'abbraccio.
have the hugging mudra. Vajrasattva is also sometimes represented like this, with this mudra, but we visualize him like this, in this case, representing that we are in this state of perfect harmony, of perfect balance, of union, of method and wisdom, the union and harmony of the male and female energies, of method and wisdom. We are a Buddha. And then we can get in all the details. We are dressed, we have very beautiful clothes, particularly representing our inner qualities. We have 6 types of jewels. We are adorned with 6 types of jewels, among which earrings, necklace, bracelets,
Bracciali alti, bracciali bassi.
higher and lower bracelets.
Abbiamo 6 tipi di gioielli e
We have 6 types of jewels, and these represent that we are adorned of generosity, morality, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, wisdom. We are adorned with the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections.
Abbiamo un aspetto molto
We have a very beautiful aspect, an aspect also partly sensual, that represents that we are inseparable from a deep state of bliss.
di solito
Usually is represented with long hair, adorned on the head, either with 5 flowers. In this case there are 5 flowers. In other representations there are 5 small skulls or 5 jewels also, representing the wisdoms of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, and that we are adorned also of the wisdoms of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. And so we start by visualizing the outer appearance. We start by the lotus flower in which we find ourselves, the sun and moon cushion, our body, with all the various aspects. We visualize every possible detail, if possible. Then we go to the inner visualization. We have a central channel that is strong in front of the spine until the basis. We have 2 side channels going through the nostrils and then getting 3 fingers below the navel inside the center channel. If we have the time, the capacity, the calmness, we visualize the subtle body from the inside. So we get inside the center channel, we visualize it from the inside, we look from down to bottom, and then we go down and we look from down to up. We see the various chakras, the various channels going in. So we go from the crown, where there are 32 channels, and then in the throat there are 16, at the heart there are 8, the navel 64, and at the sacral chakra 32. And we allow ourselves to observe our subtle body. We have the 5 main winds and the 5 secondary winds, pranas. At the head we have white bodhicitta, the sacral chakra we have the red bodhicitta, and we try to allow ourselves to visualize the whole being.
Questo processo ha diverse
This process has various functions, one of which is the development of concentration.
Andiamo a visualizzare
One of the reasons for which we visualize all of these details is really, other than all the symbology to help us to develop the identity of that, it's also useful to train us in concentration.
In general, in
the practice of the self-healing of the five Dhyani Buddhas, when there is this moment that is called transforming the rebirth in the Nirmanakaya, the body of emanation, Lama described it that one can visualize himself either in the aspect as I just described of Vajrasattva, or in the aspect of one of the five Dhyani Buddhas or of one of the five great mothers. In general, during the practices of Tantra, when one visualizes himself as a Buddha, actually transcends the matter of male and female, because ideally, okay, you're death, you're being reborn. When one dies, is reborn, so it's not the one, okay, you're a man now and you just stay man also after that. One continues from life to life, is neither male or female. And so there is a wrong interpretation that says that the practices with the female deities are for women and the practices with male deities are for men. This is a wrong interpretation. For example, if I do the practice of Tara Chittamanich, which is one of my main practices, I am Tara. In the moment of generation, I am Tara, with all the aspects of the female body and so on. So if for someone in this moment it would be more, how can I say, coherent, if one feels better with that, Maganchan gave the possibility with the practice of self-healing to do the self-generation as Vajrasattva, as one of the five Dhyani Buddhas or one of the great five mothers. In general, I have the tendency of just describing us, okay, we visualize ourselves with a pure body, a body of light, without getting into other details. But if you want, one can get into many more details. The important part is to imagine that we arise in a state where this symbology of the jewels, the symbology of the beautiful body and all of that represents the inner qualities that we have. And so a beautiful body represents a healthy state of bliss, of well-being, inner well-being. The outer aspect of the jewels and this aspect of sensuality represents bliss. Jewels represent our inner qualities of the perfections, and so on. And with this ends the part that is called the transformation of the rebirth into the Nirmanakaya, of the body of emanation. And this, if we want, we can could do it with many more details, but if we do it in this way, that where we are able to visualize that you rise in the lotus flower with a sun and moon cushion, there is the seed syllable, which transforms into the symbol, and very subtle body and mind transforming into the subtle one, and from that we arise in the aspect of the complete cross body. This is already very much fine. And so we try to imagine ourselves, in this case, not with this body that we have, but we try in this moment of the practice to not visualize this body that I have that is like made of light. We try to imagine that we have a body of light. Following the thread of the practice, we are dead and we are being reborn, so we cannot take the same body, it's gone. Usually we visualize an aspect of youth. The body that is described is like around 16 years old. This is the aspect in which is described in some texts. But the important part is like a healthy, strong body, the aspect of a beauty that is not really like from the aesthetical point of view of being beautiful in that sense, but a body that manifests a state of bliss, of joy, of peace. That's important in that sense. So if we are able to visualize ourselves in an aspect that is not of this body, this helps us even more to transcend the ordinary identity that we have. If we, in that moment, visualize this body made of light, we still remain very much attached to our identity. We haven't really let it go completely. It's really difficult to let it go completely, but anyway, to visualize ourselves differently helps. In the practice of self-healing, Lama Ganchen put emphasis in the part of generation of the body mandala. In this moment, that is called the transformation of the rebirth into the Nirmanakaya. Actually, in the practice by itself, when we recite it, there is nothing that you should recite. Everything is just visualized. Then sometimes when I guide the practice, I give some descriptions to help to generate that visualization, but actually, since when I did NgalSo Bhava Shuddha Sarva until the generation of the lotus flower, in the middle of this, there is a transformation of death into Dharmakaya, the Bardo into Sambhogakaya, and the rebirth into Nirmanakaya. So we visualize this body with all the characteristics around us. We try to visualize a very beautiful environment. In front of us there is Guru Buddha. Okay. And then, once that we've done this, we place our attention at the inside of our body, inside of the central channel. The central channel, at each one of the main points, so-called chakras, is where there is a sort of intersection where the other channels enter. It's described that we have 72,000 subtle channels. Let's count them a little bit. It's not a joke. Let's start from the central channel. At the heart chakra, the process of birth. Okay, first we have the central channel. From the central channel, there are 4 channels in the 4 directions, 4 cardinal directions. From each one of them, there is another second channel, which are the intermediate ones. So we have 8 channels, which are the 8 channels of the heart chakra. From each one of these 8 channels, there are 3 other channels going out. So 3 by 8, 24. For each one of these 24 channels, there are other 3 coming. So we have 72. From each one of the 72 channels, there are 1,000 mini channels of each one. So we get to the 72,000 that start from the heart and go through the whole body. So if we had to give an analogy with something of the physical body, it's extremely similar. You cannot say that it's that, but it's very similar to the nervous system, lymphatic system, and the system of the circulatory system, strongly connected to these 3. And even when we say that they multiply always in 3, so we have from the first 8 we have they multiply into 3, and then 3 again is connected with the matter of bile, phlegma, and wind. There is a direct connection with the the wind has direct connection with the nervous system. Then there is the part connected with the lymphatic system and a part connected with the circulatory system. Anyway, we're not here to do anatomy of the gross body, but the point is that we imagine these 72 channels of energy, subtle energy that go throughout the whole body. So when we do the simulation of the death of the gross body, everything reabsorbs at the heart for this, because all the channels start from there. Some of these main channels meet at other parts of the body. So like the central channel has some kind of entrances with other channels entering. So at the crown, you have like 32 channels spreading, then at the throat 16, at the heart 8, at the navel 64, and at the secret chakra, the basis of the spine, of the central channel, there are 32. Someone could say, Lama, but aren't there 7 chakras? Actually, there are practices in Buddhism, for example, 24 chakras. Practices with 6, practices with 7, practices with 3 or 1. We have 72 channels and they meet in many parts of the body. In this system that we are following is put emphasis on 5 points, which are called the 5 chakras. Then there is also the chakra of the forehead. There are other chakras also, but emphasis is placed on these 5 chakras. Chakra literally means wheel. It's like an intersection of the various channels. And so, what we will do after this is to start to generate the body mandala.
Ci sono 5 passaggi.
There are 5 steps, which are the same steps of the stage of generation, of the self-generation, the transformation of the rebirth into the body of emanation. And this is something that all the practices of self-generation, there are always these 5 steps. Tibetan
Il termine in tibetano che viene utilizzato
term in Tibetan is
le Chanchupa, Pema le Chanchupa, Sabyo le Chanchupa, Chanze le Chanchupa, Kuyonsu Zopa le Chanchupa. Questa generazione
this generation starts from the emptiness of intrinsic existence, from which the lotus flower arises, from which in which arises the seed syllable that transforms into the symbol that transforms into the complete body of Buddha.
similmente,
And similarly, when we have done the generation, and we haven't got into the details, but from the union of bliss and emptiness, from the clear light, the universe reappears and arises the lotus flower. In this, we arise as the seed syllable, transforming into the symbol, transforming into the complete body. And so, the lotus flower, emptiness is the basis for which anything can exist and be created and transformed. The lotus flower represents the container. The seed syllable is the very subtle mind and body, the essence transforming into the subtle body, transforming into the gross body. More than transforming, manifesting. From very subtle body and mind, the subtle one manifests, from which the gross one manifests. And so, inside of our chakras, we generate the body mandala. We start first with the generation of the lotus flowers, representing the subtle energy channels of each one of our chakras. To be precise, as a visualization, we have the center channel. The lotus flower is inside the center channel, and each petal of the lotus flower is one of the energy channels that starts from the central channel. So there is at the heart the lotus flower of 8 petals, and so we have the central part of the lotus flower, which is of the same size of the width of the central channel, and then each one of the petals are the various channels that start from the central channel. The same thing, we have a green lotus flower of 32 petals of the secret chakra, yellow of 64 at the navel, blue of 8 petals at the heart, red of 16 petals at the throat, and white of 32 petals at the head. It's clear that if, for example, we take the little book of the self-feeling, where there are the various drawings to help us visualize, when we visualize, it's not that we take those drawings and we kind of do like a sort of cut and paste and put them in our own chakras. They're representing something that is much more difficult to draw. But first of all, okay, the lotus flower is not like that, but it's like this. And inside, it's inside the central channel. So let's try to visualize it from the inside. This central channel, looked from outside, is more or less It's said that it's like a bamboo.
Dritto come un bambù, flessibile allo stesso tempo.
Straight as a bamboo, but flexible at the same time.
Non è molto grande,
It's
ma
not
quando
very
lo
big,
guardi
but when you look
dall'interno,
it from outside, from inside, it's huge.
all'interno di ognuno dei chakra ci sorge
Inside each one of the chakras, there is this lotus flower, and if we look from close by, close up, then it's huge. So we shouldn't imagine like as something really small that you have to go there like that and to look
claustrofobico.
kind of like claustrophobic that is there with no space and the Buddha inside the central channel with no room to breathe. No, it's something with a lot of space. So we imagine that inside of that there is a lot of space.
E perciò andiamo a
And
generare
so
in ognuno dei
we
chakra.
generate at each one of the chakras
Quando
this
facciamo
lotus
questo,
flower. When we do this,
il mantra che andiamo a
the
recitare,
mantra that we recite is Pam Lepe Majango.
Pam vuol dire
Pam
la sillaba
is
seme,
the seed syllable of the essence of the lotus flower.
quindi si dice dall'essenza,
So
dalla
from the Pam, from the essence, a lotus flower arises green in color or yellow, blue, red,
e bianco.
or white.
Django vuol dire verde,
Django
serpo
means
giallo, ngombo blu,
green,
marpo
serpo
rosso,
yellow, and so on.
carpo bianco in tibetano. Il gesto che andiamo a fare, il mudra che
The
andiamo a
mudra
fare,
that we
viene
do, the
chiamato
gesture,
il mudra
is called the mudra of
dell'otto che gira.
the lotus turning
La
mudra.
conclusione
And
finale
the
viene
final
chiamato
conclusion
il
is called the
della
mudra of the
liberazione.
liberation.
E questo cosa rappresenta?
And what does this represent? The lotus turning represents that lotus flower that is positioned inside. As we do the mudra of the lotus turning, with the mantra we visualize the lotus flower that then opens up.
Quando si apre,
And when it opens, if we really were like very precise, for the lower chakras it's more difficult to do the mudra like that. Okay, higher is easier. We should make this sound.
questo pop che si fa
This kind of pop represents, it's like the channels, the chakra opening, the lotus flower opening, and the winds that were blocked can flow. So it's not that we have to fixate ourselves to really make the pop sound, but naturally we know that, okay, this should be the...
Mi ricordo anche un disegno in un libro di Lama Ganchen.
I also remember like a drawing in a book of Lama Ganchen where like there was the drawing of the lotus flower and outside the like, pop writing to help us understand, like in the comics. So it represents the lotus that is opening with the petals, and the energy can flow in those channels.
Questo è il momento in cui
This is the moment where we generate the lotus flower. Once that we have generated the lotus flower at the various chakras, there is an important point. All the points are important, but this represents the pure environment, the correct health environment. On this, we generate the seed syllable. And here there is a fundamental point. When we talk about a body mandala, what is a body mandala? To visualize some Buddhas inside of us at the various parts of our body doesn't make it a body mandala.
Per esempio,
For example, in the Tantra of Yamantaka, where there is the part of visualization, of Manjushri at the heart, or it's not defined as a body mandala. The body mandala requires that in the practice there is a part of our being, which is the basis, a part of us, that in its turn transforms itself into the state of Buddha. So, in the practice of the self-feeling, what are the parts of the basis that transform into the result, our 5 aggregates? There is a teaching of Buddha, there is the Tantra of Guhya Samaja. Guhya Samaja is called the union of all secrets. It's one of the most important tantras that Buddha transmitted. is the one that is used also as a point of reference for all the teachings of Tantra. It's called the king of all Tantras, and so on. The practice of self-healing, it's as if it was a simplified version of the Tantra of Guhya Samaja. Very, very similar on many aspects. The practice of Guhya Samaja, as it's transmitted, usually I had the opportunity to receive all the teachings in the state of generation and completion. To give you an idea, when I was receiving those teachings, one day I was in Tibet, I had all the time at my disposal. I was by myself, there was no one, I had nothing to do but just to study and practice. And say how beautiful. I do the sadhana, the practice of Guhya Samaja. I was studying, receiving teachings on the whole sadhana, the whole commentary. It's beautiful. I go and do it, the normal version, the long version that is done. I start to recite, read the sadhana, do the visualization at the beginning with a bit more enthusiasm, calmness, the various parts. Then 1 hour passes, 2 hours, I see that I didn't even go to half. I start to go a little bit quicker. And then at the end to do the sadhana it took me like 4 hours. And it's not that I stood there still. No, I went quite quickly. It's such a level of details and visualization of so many kinds and of really big complexity that it was conceived in that way for those that was doing full-time job practicing Guhya Samaja, but not 8 hours, like 14 hours a day. People that in their lives, what do? You practice Guhya Samaja, that's it. And they spend hours every day meditating, doing that. One that dedicates life to that, learns by heart everything that is there, studies, and all life revolves around that practice. But who among us has that capacity? If I show you the sadhana of Guhya Samaja, but not necessarily to you, but also to the very great majority of the monks studying Buddhist philosophy in the great monasteries, when we talk about Guhya Samaja, everyone is like afraid for how big the sadhana is. When someone says, I will do the retreat of Guhya Samaja, the answer is like, wow, you're so brave. Geshe-lo Sampung Tsok did it recently, and it's difficult because the sadhana is so long.
La pratica di Guhya Samaja, la pratica dell'autoguarigione è
The practice of the self-healing is like a simplified version of the practice of Guhya Samaja. In the practice of Guhya Samaja, the body mandala is made of 32 deities. The main ones are the five great, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and the 5 great mothers, just as we have in the self-healing and the practice for the environment. So the basis of the body mandala, like in Guhya Samaja and also in the self-healing, are our 5 aggregates. So we really access to our aggregate of the form of the basis, which is our body on a gross, subtle and very subtle level, to our discernment, to our consciousness, which is our mental continuum. There are 6 consciousness, but which are the 6 consciousness of the senses. So we say consciousness that we take from our sensations and composition of factors, which are the various characteristics that make out the mind. These 5 aggregates arise in the form of the seed syllables. So the seed syllables are not something from outside that comes and then at a certain point that they appear, something that it's already inside of us. We have the aggregate. Do we have the aggregate of form? Yes. Om, white Om. Do we have discernment? Red Ha. Ah. Aggregate of consciousness is blue Hum. Aggregate of sensation, white, yellow Tram. Aggregate of composition of factors, green Ri. So, what are the seed syllables? They are our own being. They are the parts that make us up. It's like the basis, the imputation, the basis of imputation of our being. When Buddha describes a being, describes that the basis of imputation of our identity are the five aggregates. So we take each one of these aggregates and access to it. Those are parts that make up our being. So we have body and mind. The mind is made out of four parts. So we have the consciousness, which is also called the primary mind. And then there are the so-called mental factors, which are aspects of mind, among which is placed emphasis on discernment and sensation, and then all the other mental factors that are part of those that are called compositional factors. And here, for example, we understand that in order to understand well the Tantra, one needs to have studied also very well the sutras. Some of you maybe have studied, read, or followed the teachings of the 51 mental factors. Who didn't, then you can hear them, you can listen to them, they're very beautiful. There are teachings that I gave on these books, and there the mind is divided among primary mind and mental factors. It's a bit like the example that I gave a few days ago, like you have the lasagna and all the ingredients. So the primary mind is mind, and all the mental factors are the ingredients. The aggregate of consciousness is mind, and then the various ingredients making out the mind is the discernment of the throat, the sensation of the navel, and all the other ingredients of the secret chakra. This is how it's described in the sense. But it's very different if I visualize the seed syllable as something that is there and I don't know what it is, when the seed syllable is the representation of the essence of my aggregates, something that makes this is the basis of the body mandala. So for example, the body mandala in the practice of chakra samvara or vajrayogini, the basis of the body mandala are the subtle energy channels, are our own subtle energy channels that are transformed in the aspect of the deity. So here in this practice are the five aggregates. So something of ourselves that is transformed. Then in the practice of Guhya Samaja you have the five aggregates, the five elements, the five senses, and so on, that transform into the various deities of the body mandala. What Lama Ganchen transmitted is that mainly, the first level of the self-feeling practice is the five Dhyani Buddhas, and then once the one has created some familiarity with the practice of the five Dhyani Buddhas, the ideal thing would be to add together with it the practice of the five great mothers, where at that point what one accesses to, as said syllables, are the five aggregates and the five elements that make us out. So now we're talking about the five Dhyani Buddhas, Om Ahum Tram Ri. There is also the possibility in some cases Om Ahum Soha. In some tantras, the seed syllables of the navel is So, in others is Stram, and at the secret chakra sometimes is Ha, or in others Ri. So for example, in the practice of Tara Chittamani is Om Ahum Soha. And Lama Ganchen, when he wrote at the very beginning, the first text of the self-feeling, when he got to the seed syllables, he said Om Ahum Tramri or Om Ahum Soha. The only thing is that if we do Om Ahum Soha, then we should change the following mantras. They should become So Le Natsu Dorje Jangu So, Ale Natsu Dorje Jangu Ha.
Ok? Perciò in generale,
and so in general we use Om Ahum Tramri. The important thing is that we visualize this very small dot of light and imagine that inside the central channel there is the lotus flower. Inside of that appears that dot of light vibrating with the sound, and that has its color. So we have the white Om, the red Ha, the blue Hum, the yellow Tram, and the green Ri. This dot of light not only represents our aggregates, but also the potential of our qualities. So, when we imagine Akshobhya, Akshobhya represents stability, love, compassion, developed to its maximum potential. Today, do we have a level, a potential, a level of stability, of love and compassion? Something is there. Also, more than something. Compared to Buddha, okay, little something. That's what we access to. Represents that potential that we have. So we access to our 5 aggregates mainly, and then together with them, there is all our potential. The term seed syllable is used. Syllable because it's made out of energy, of sound. Sound, vibration, vibration, energy. Seed, because a seed is something that is extremely small, but that contains in its inside all the information of that huge tree that it can become. And similarly to this, it's something that is very small that contains the whole potential to become each one of the 5 daily Buddhas, to develop those qualities to the maximum potential. So we visualize that each one of the seed syllables. If we do it a bit more quickly, we just visualize the seed syllables. Otherwise, if we do it with a bit more calmness, with a bit more details, then we recite slowly in each chakra, and we visualize that from the syllable Om, rays of light emanate, that perform the 2 purposes, so they make offerings to sacred beings and to help sentient beings. That actually is the same action, but when you make an act of a gift to a spiritually more evolved being, then it's called an offering. When you do a gift, when you give a gift to a being that is equal or lower, then it's called an act of generosity. So these rays of light from the Om emanate, making offerings to sacred beings. They reach a state of bliss, and the rays of light come back. They go towards sentient beings, transforming them gradually and bringing them to a state of peace, and then the rays of light come back. This emanating and reabsorbing also represents also the path of spiritual development that requires accumulation of positive karmic force. So it represents the process of accumulation. We emanate, we reabsorb. From the strength of this, it's as if I took a seed that is very powerful and I start pouring some water on it. It's as if it starts to shake because I want to sprout by all means. And so, after having done this, these seed syllables transform into the symbols and then transform into the Buddhas. Then tomorrow we get into the details of that. But it's important in the part of the seed syllables, all of this is happening inside of our central channel. We visualize these lights, from them rays of light emanate, going towards all sacred beings and sentient beings, come back, and it nourishes that strength, that force. And let's remember that they are our 5 aggregates: the aggregate of form with the white Om, the aggregate of discernment at the red Ha, the aggregate of consciousness at the blue Hum, the aggregate of sensation at the yellow Tram, and the aggregate of composition of factors at the green Ri. Then, to understand even better what the 5 aggregates are, the more we have a deeper knowledge of that, the better this part of the practice happens. And this we can find it in everything that is about the part of the philosophy, Buddhist philosophy. The 5 aggregates is a fundamental part to understand the I, the self, how we are made. Also, if we look at the text of the Heart Sutra, one of the main points talks about the 5 aggregates. That is the basis of imputation of the I, of our identity. And so, in the lotus flowers appears seed syllables transforming into symbols, representing that very subtle part transforming into a subtle part, representing our potential transforming, which then transforms into the aspect of Buddha, representing our aggregates that are transformed completely from an impure state to a pure state. Because the 5 Dhyani Buddhas represent, among other things, the 5 aggregates in a pure state. So, body, discernment, consciousness, sensation, and composition of factors in a pure state. Then we will see in even more details to get more and more deep in the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. But I believe that this part of transformation from the death to Bardo to rebirth and the generation of the body mandala up to now is quite clear, isn't it? Then we can see, we can do the practice with the various details and everything, and we can spend like the whole day in it, and sometimes we can also do that. But the beauty is that we can do it like in a very simple way, or we can also get into so many details that are very deep and profound. So now let's make our final dedications.
Lama kutse rapten chi nam karatin le chokchur gepa dan lo san tempe drume sasumgi drowe munsel takto ne gyur chi nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shi ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumki chingi lo kuncho sumki ngodrubut sol Concio sum che trasciscio all'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il and sprinkle all the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Buona serata, grazie a tutti e ci vediamo domani mattina.